Hi everyone, and thank you for joining. This content is designed for informational purposes and is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice. Organizations should always consult their professional advisors related to specific situations. Some of these foundational documents or governing documents are legal documents, while others are helpful to have. We will discuss articles of incorporation, bylaws and constitution, legislation, strategic plans, policies and procedures, and meeting minutes. We'll talk about the purpose and what is included in each, and how to change or update them. We will discuss record retention and fulfilling fiduciary responsibilities.
We'll begin today's session by talking about your organization's articles of incorporation. A corporation comes into existence on the date its articles of incorporation are filed with the regulatory body, either provincially with the Companies Office in Manitoba or nationally with Corporations Canada. You'll remember that these articles used to be called letters patent. The Articles of Incorporation is a legal document that outlines the general purpose and structure of the organization and its intent to operate exclusively with a nonprofit purpose. All content provided within the Articles of Incorporation must align with local nonprofit incorporation statutes. The document contains the name of the corporation, the address of the registered office, the minimum and maximum number of directors required, full names and addresses of all of the first directors involved in the organization, the undertakings of the corporation, and that includes all of your activities, and they must fall within the objects outlined in that section. We will use the Keystone Agricultural Producers' purpose or undertakings as an example here. This organization started in 1985, and when draft, the articles stated that CAP would develop and promote a unified policy voice for agriculture producers. They would represent the interest of its members before public authorities, agencies, boards, commissions, and groups with respect to matters affecting agriculture. They would promote and defend the economic, social, physical, and cultural well-being of agriculture producers. They would carry on, engage in, and conduct programs, activities, teachings, research, and investigation into the production and marketing of ag products. And they would carry on any other activities in connection with the above. And so that general statement at the end allows you some flexibility. But you do need to remember to keep all of your activities and all purposes and undertakings in alignment with what's stated in your Articles of Incorporation here. And remember that your Articles of Incorporation should be available to all board members and directors when they join the organization or board and or when they request a copy. If you're an organization that cannot locate a copy of your Articles of Incorporation, you can visit the Companies Office website and click on Request for Certificate or Copies and complete the online form and request a copy of your Articles of Incorporation. There may be a small fee, and you can inquire what that fee will be at the Companies Office. If you need to make changes to your Articles of Incorporation, that can also be done through the Companies Office. For example, if the Keystone Agricultural Producers wanted to change their registered name to Manitoba Agricultural Producers, they would have to update their registered name. If the registered office address changed, or if the minimum or maximum number of directors changed, or if the purpose or undertaking of your organization changed, use the Article of Amendment form and pay the associated fee to the Companies Office. And you can get those Articles of Incorporation updated or changed when deemed necessary.
We will now switch gears and talk about Constitution and Bylaws, which is another foundational document. Constitution and bylaws are foundational documents that every board member needs to be familiar with. Traditionally, some organizations had both a constitution and bylaws. It is now common for organizations to refer to this governing document as its bylaws. In cases where they are separate documents, the Constitution states the purpose of the organization. It also states the structure and methods of operation. Think of the Constitution as a framework that is used long-term. The bylaws would common items to include in a constitution include the name of the organization, the typical items someone may find in the bylaws include method for admission of regular members, criteria for any other classes or subdivision of membership, conditions and procedures for the termination of membership, procedures for election and removal of officers, board members, and chairs of standing committees, procedures for election and term. The Corporations Act states that a corporation shall prepare and maintain at its registered office or at another place in Manitoba designated by directors records containing A, the articles and the bylaws and the amendments to them, and a copy of any unanimous shareholder agreements. These should be stored safely together. It is wise to have at least. Moving on, now we'll talk about legislation that applies to your organization. Think about whether or not your organization is governed by any legislation. Examples would include the Provincial Corporations Act, the Provincial Ag Societies Act, the Federal Corporations Act, the Federal Charities Act. In most cases, a copy of the Act can be located by an electronic search of the provincial or federal government website. In Manitoba's case, they appear as you will see on the screen. Regulations are listed alphabetically by commodity. By clicking on the underlined file to the right of the title, you will source the respective document. Should you wish to compare a previous version, you can do so by clicking on the A to the right of the underlined file. A stands for archived version. The current version is the one that must align with your organization's bylaws. As illustrated for the Manitoba beekeepers, you'll see one commodity may have several pieces of legislation to consider.
Another foundational document we encourage all organizations to have is a strategic plan. The strategic plan is another governance document that all directors and board members should be familiar with. Your organization's strategic plan typically contains a vision statement. A vision statement indicates where you want to be long-term. It's a future-based statement that encapsulates hopes and dreams, and it's a desired future state. Think about it. Do you know the vision statement for your organization? I find it's always helpful to hear some example vision statements. Manitoba Pork's vision is to become a center of excellence for global pork production. Agriculture in the Classroom Manitoba Inc. will lead in the development and distribution of accurate, balanced, and current information for use as educational resources in school curriculum. These are great examples. Now we know that mission statements are also really important within your strategic plan. They indicate what you do. It's a present tense statement and defines the organization's reason for existence, or it confirms the organization's purpose. Think about it for a moment. Do you know your organization's mission statement? Let's again look at a few examples. The Manitoba Sheep Association's mission: to initiate, support, and conduct programs and activities designed to stimulate and improve the economic well-being of all segments of the Manitoba sheep industry. The Manitoba chicken producers call theirs a statement of purpose: to advocate for the sustainability of our farmers so that we can continue to provide a healthy, safe, and nutritious supply of chicken to our communities. A strategic plan should also include core values. They indicate what is important to the organization. They outline or convey or symbolize the organization's beliefs and help to create a strong internal culture. The Keystone Agricultural Producers' core values include being evidence-based or data-driven, using solutions-oriented approaches, having a collaborative, community-driven, grassroots approach in mind, working with integrity and honesty, and being environmental stewards. And lastly, to monitor progress, evaluate results, and report on what's accomplished within your strategic plan, board members and staff must strive to assign performance metrics to the strategic plan. once all priorities and associated goals have been drafted. So please remember the importance and the value of having an up-to-date strategic plan for your organization.
Now let's spend some time talking about the importance of policies and procedures. Policies are the rules, the expectations, the guidelines for future action. Procedures outline how something is done, the steps to follow, and who is responsible. Simply stated, policies are a written statement that tell people what to do. Procedures clarify how something is done, the steps to follow, and who is responsible. The board has the responsibility of developing a governance structure or a system to conduct their business, and it is expected to develop, implement, and monitor policies that will allow the organization to carry out its work. Organizations typically set policies on topics that are risky, timely, based on trends, or repetitive discussion items. We've referred to rules in two places while discussing foundational documents. The first time was in the Constitution Bylaws section, and now again in the Policy and Procedure discussion. You may be asking yourself why.
Meeting minutes is the last foundational document that we will talk about today, and we will strive to emphasize the importance and value of keeping great minutes. Meeting minutes are another foundational or governance document, and they serve as corporate memory. They tell a story about the organization long after the board members and directors have moved on. Minutes document the actions that determine the fulfillment of legal duties. They are a record of the proceedings of the meeting. They record how decisions are made and resulting actions and the person responsible. And minutes clarify what actually happened at the meeting and when tasks are to be completed. To protect the organization and the people associated, it is wise for nonprofit organizations to keep meeting minutes with accurate records of all matters considered, motions made, and approved actions. Under the Corporations Act, it is a legal requirement for all organizations registered as corporations to keep accurate minutes. Board-approved meeting minutes serve. This fact sheet, called Meeting Minute Best Practices, is an excellent resource. It is available on the Industry Leadership section of the Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development website, and the link will be shared with you.
Now that we have talked about a number of foundational documents, let us spend a few minutes discussing record retention. This slide contains a list of governance-related documents that should be kept according to the Corporations Act. They include your Constitution, bylaws, policies and procedures, board minutes, general meeting minutes, annual general meeting minutes, corporation documents, and a number of others. A number of other important financial records are listed here. Ledgers, canceled checks, financial statements, bank statements, credit card statements, bank reconciliation, investment, fundraising materials, petty cash, donation receipts, payroll, tax returns, audit documents, and granting information. And finally, organizational records that should be kept include property titles, insurance policies, contracts, personnel records, and information related to your organizational activities, such as newsletters, programs, promotional materials, flyers, advertisements, reports, historical documents. Keeping one copy of the organization's activities materials will give the organization a good archive of past activities. A record retention and destruction policy often includes a record retention schedule. Revenue Canada agency regulations require records and supporting documents to be kept for a period of 6 years from the end of the last tax year they relate to. The tax year is the fiscal period for corporations and the calendar year for non-incorporated organizations. Do note that there are exceptions to the 6-year requirement, such as a bill of sale for business equipment. These need to be kept in perpetuity. It is recommended to back up records and keep them in a separate location. If paper records are scanned, they must be kept in an electronically readable format showing all details on the front and back of the originals. Copies of important documents, such as your Constitution, bylaws, or incorporation documents, should be kept with a lawyer or in a safety deposit box. Never destroy any original documents without receiving legal or financial advice first. Following this presentation, we recommend that you take some time to review your organization's policy on record storage and retention.
We wanted to also cover some board governance mistakes related to some of the foundational documents we have just discussed. Failing to fulfill fiduciary responsibilities. This is a very important one. Please remember that under your duty of due diligence and care, it states that directors must be fully informed on all matters and act with competence. The duty of obedience is to act within the scope of governing policies of the organization and within the scope of other laws, rules, and regulations that apply to the organization. We also want to emphasize that failing to keep your orientation materials current is also another board governance mistake. Over time, many organizations change their focus or their purpose as current trends, market demands, or consumer perspectives change. And if an organization fails to operate within the objects or the activities outlined in their governing documents, or they neglect to review or update their foundational documents, this can be a challenge. So think about what you need to talk about at your next board meeting. Is it your articles of incorporation? Your bylaw or constitution? Does it need to be updated? Is there legislation you need to think about? Do you need to look at your strategic plan, refer to it more often, or get the strategic plan up to date? Are there policies and procedures that could improve your processes? Are you taking efficient meeting minutes? These are very important questions to consider at your next board meeting. This is a great visual resource that was developed by BoardSource. It references a number of the documents every board must have. Some we've had time to discuss today, and others I'll encourage you to explore on your own later. But they include your articles of incorporation, your bylaws or constitution, policies and procedures, board processes, position descriptions and charters, and agendas.
Stay connected with us. Contact a rural leadership specialist at leadership@gov.mb.ca with any governance or leadership development questions. Make time to visit our Manitoba Agriculture and Rural Development Industry Leadership webpage at gov.mb.ca/agriculture. There you will find a number of resources including fact sheets and worksheets, templates, and guidebooks that will help you strengthen your organization. You will also find contact information for rural leadership specialists who are available to work with your agriculture organization. The website contains a wealth of information related to leading an organization, starting an organization, developing a strategic plan, being a board member, board operations, and dissolving an organization. The resource section contains a number of tools and links that you will find helpful. Please join the conversation with Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development. Subscribe to our newsletter, visit our website, call our general inquiries number, view our YouTube videos, or follow us on Twitter.